Hello! In this video I'm going to be discussing the Branding tab in the Manage PBX Portal. This tab allows you to modify the user interface of the portal that your customers access. You'll be able to make changes to what users see when they log in, and the changes can be applied to either user roles on a per domain or across your reseller account basis, or even to individual users. These changes are done by setting UI config parameters. You can find information about each individual UI config in our documentation at docs.skyswitch.com, or you can simply click on the Help tab and search for Branding tab. When you access the Branding tab for the first time, you will likely see many parameters that are already set for your reseller account. We don't recommend modifying these unless you are familiar with the particular UI configs visible. I should note that the documentation also details the default values, the acceptable parameters, and for which user roles the UI configs are valid for. It's important to note that UI configs cannot always be applied to every role. UI configs are applied to the user upon login. So if a user is already logged in and you make a change to the UI config, that user will need to log out and log back in before the change takes effect. We will continuously add and modify our documentation as new UI configs and features become available. So let's take a look at the interface where you would add a UI config. Simply click the Add Branding button and it will pull up the option to add a UI config. UI configs are applied per domain or for your entire reseller account. If you leave the domain as a star, it will apply to all of your domains. With all UI configs, a role must be chosen. If you want to add a config for multiple roles, you will need to add one UI config per role. For the user field, you can leave it as a star to apply it to all users in that particular role. If you start to type a name or extension with the domain selected, you should get an autocomplete drop-down to select the user. So here I'm going to select skyswitch.15611.service. And I'll just start to type out Corey Stoker Test 2. If I set it to no, this will remove the ability for Corey Stoker Test 2 to be able to see this menu. So I need to select a user role still, and I'll set the config value to no. The description is used for your own personal reference, so you can set the description to whatever you want. Now before I make this change, I'll go ahead and log into this test user and we'll take a look at what they currently see. We have the home, users, conference, auto attendant, and so on. So we're going to be removing this auto attendant button. So all I need to do is click add here. And again, this will not take effect until the user logs in the next time. So I'm going to log out. And now you see that the auto attendant menu is gone. There's a lot of stuff that you can do inside of the UI config, so I'd recommend just looking around the documentation and seeing if anything is valuable to you or something that you've been trying to do. You can actually use this to set button builder for your end users on a domain by domain basis now, or across your entire reseller account. If you want to give basic users and office managers the ability to access button builder, you certainly can with the Branding tab. Now the branding files are images and resources that are used to brand your end portal. So this will contain your logo and favorite icon, for example. And we'll have documentation on how you can set these up and modify them yourself in the very near future. Thank you very much, and please refer to our documentation for all parameters and UI configs.